Hello guys, welcome back to LR Anime. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of BTTH Rebirth of Emperor Yang episode number 140 based on novel. So let's start. The voice of a cold and treacherous smile slowly reverberated in the stone chamber. In front of the stone gate, 5 figures stood scattered. The first person was an old man in grey robe with pointed monkey cheeks and dark eyes. The laughter just came from his mouth. Killing people and stealing goods. In recent days, these 5 can do a lot of practical work, but they will wait quietly for the moment when the stone gate is opened, and then 5 people will kill the person who opened the stone gate at the same time. In this way, they can not only get the treasure of Shaman, but also get more things. In just a few days, they have won more than 10.5 strong emperors in a row. At the moment, Xiao Yan is their 15th goal. When the grey-robed old man's treacherous words were heard, the 4 figures behind him also gave a sneer. The 5 people stepped forward at the same time. For a moment, a terrible momentum threatened them. Without saying a word, they swept towards Xiao Yang, who was in the stone room at this time. Aware of the attack of this momentum, Xiao Yang turned a little too far, as if he had noticed them. Under his black robe, a pair of dark eyes stared at the 5 people in front of the stone room door, and his eyes flashed slightly. Immediately, he whispered, 2 9.5 emperors and 3 8.5 emperors. I have to say that if this lineup is obtained elsewhere, no one will be your opponent, but in front of me. In the end, Xiao Yang's voice gradually decreased until he was completely silent. At the same time, the momentum and pressure of the 5 semi-imperialist strong men have come to Xiao Yang in the twinkling of an eye. Hum. A faint cold hum came out. For a short time, a similarly overbearing momentum in Xiao Yang's body turned into a storm at this moment, and swept out of Xiao Yang's body. Then, the 2 equally powerful momentum and pressure collided fiercely. Bang! With a low bang, the 2 powerful forces collided with each other in the space in front of Xiao Yang. Suddenly, the invisible void suddenly stirred up. Then, the momentum gathered by the 5 semi-imperialist powers was suddenly broken in the frightened eyes of the 5 people. The imposing force was broken, and the faces of the 5 semi-imperial strong men suddenly changed. A pair of eyes and pupils showed an incredible look. With the imposing force condensed by the 5 of them, they were defeated by the black-robed man in front of them. What strength is this guy? Is it said to be a strong man fighting the emperor? Damn it! How can strong people of this level appear here? Shouldn't they all go directly to the depths of the ruins? What should we do now? If we provoke a strong fighter, even with our strength, we can't be his opponent, but if he doesn't do it, can he let us go? Behind the grey-robed old man, the 4 semi-emperors whispered to each other with extremely ugly faces. In the face of a strong opponent who is likely to be fighting the emperor, they really can't raise their mind against the enemy. In the eyes of fighting the emperor, their so-called high-level semi-emperors are not worth mentioning at all. When these words came into the ears of the grey-robed old man, the old man's face immediately became gloomy. At least these guys are also high-level semi-emperors. They are always high in front of people. How can they become so timid and afraid in the face of a family whose strength is not completely determined? What a useless waste. With a low scold in his heart, the old man raised his eyes and looked at Xiao Yang in the stone chamber. The muscles in the corners of his eyes couldn't help twitching slightly. Soon, he turned his head and stared at the 4 people behind him. His voice was low. What's the panic? If he is really a strong man fighting the emperor and wants to break this array, he doesn't have to work hard. His real strength can't be explained by momentum alone. As soon as the grey-robed old man said this, the 4 people behind him also reacted. If the black-robed man in front of him was really a strong man fighting the emperor, wouldn't it be easy to smash the array on the stone gate? Moreover, with the arrogance of the strong man fighting the emperor, if someone dared to say something just like that to him, I'm afraid he should have shot them long ago. Look at the situation now, the man in black didn't seem to have any plans to do it. After thinking about this, in the twinkling of an eye, the faces of the 4 semi-emperor strong men immediately became yin and cold. You're making a fool of yourself and looking for death. Hey, you almost fooled me. Let's see what strength you have. Each of the 4 people gave a sneer. Immediately, the body standing in place suddenly moved, and instantly turned into 4 streamers. With a bear's momentum, in the twinkling of an eye, they had come to Xiao Yang's face. With a big hand, the weapons in their hands flashed out in unison, and attacked Xiao Yang's head with a cold light. Behind these 4 people, the old man in grey robe also followed closely. The fighting spirit in his palm gathered rapidly, as if he wanted to kill Xiao Yang. In this regard, Xiao Yang's face has no change, but in the pile of black eyes under the black robe, the cold light is more and more obvious. The fighting spirit in his body has also run up and down his whole body. As long as Xiao Yang's heart moves, he can give a fierce blow at any time. At the next moment, the sharp blades emitting cold light in the hands of the four figures in front of him had come to the top of Xiao Yang's head. The powerful fighting spirit fluctuation made the void around these people tremble violently. While cutting through the void, the sharp blades in their hands also made a harsh sound explosion, and a trace of space cracks appeared around these four people. Die. Seeing Xiao Yang, who was close at hand and seemed to be frightened too much, the ferocious color in the eyes of the four people was even worse. Together with the weapons in their hands, they became more and more fierce. However, at the next moment, the four people who saw that the black-robed man had become the souls of their men. In a pair of eyes, the pupils suddenly contracted, and the breath between the nose suddenly stagnated at this moment. With the forward body shape, it seemed that they had lost all control. At the moment when they were about to touch Xiao Yang's body, they were resisted by an invisible force, and immediately, as soon as the body was soft, it dissipated quietly and turned into a pile of ashes. After that, the grey-robed old man, after seeing the extremely strange death method of the four people in front of him, the look in his eyes also suddenly became frightened. He could not imagine that the strange black-robed man in front of him had been so strong that he was really a strong man fighting the emperor. But then, there was a sinister color in the old man's eyes. No matter whether the person in front of him was a strong man fighting the emperor or not, he just shot the four people and was in neutral. This is a good time to do it. Die. There was a vicious roar in his mouth. Then, the body shape of the old man in grey robe appeared in front of Xiao Yang. Immediately, a strong palm hit Xiao Yang's chest. Poof! However, when the grey-robed old man's palm fell, what he got was a low, dull sound. In an instant, the old man's face suddenly changed, and before he could respond, Xiao Yang's body suddenly shook. Even if he poured out, a huge force would shake the grey-robed old man out with one blow. You! When the old man looked frightened and fixed his body, he raised his eyes. Before the words came out, his face changed again. The place where the man in black had just stood had become empty. Then, the pupil in the old man's eyes suddenly contracted, and a chill came from the back of his neck. I gave you a party to leave on your own. Since you have to die, you can't blame me. At the moment when the indifferent voice fell, the fire in Xiao Yang's palm suddenly flashed. Immediately, a rocket pierced the grey-robed old man's neck. The debris of the stone gate smashed by Julie collapsed and piled up in front of the stone chamber. In the stone chamber, there are many natural materials and earth treasures side by side. From the energy fluctuation emitted in the air, the things here are also unusual. In the stone chamber at the moment, there are 7 semi-emperor strong men standing here. However, the 7 semi-emperor strong men at this time are all with some injuries, light or heavy, and one of them has been unconscious. The remaining 6 people are staring at the mysterious man in black with a frightened face. They are incredible. There are 7 of them, including 3 9-star and half-emperors. Even the strength of the other 4 people is also at the level of 8-star and half-emperors. This level of lineup is enough for them to sweep anyone below the strong emperor in this relic trip. However, now, I can't imagine that the 7 of them will lose in the hands of one person at the same time, and they are still so embarrassed. Even if they try their best, they can't go out of 3 rounds in the hands of the black-robed man in front of them. Who is the person in front of you? Until now, these 6 people have fully understood that they can easily defeat 7.5 emperor strong men with their own strength. I'm afraid the people in front of them are at least 1 emperor strong man. Mutter. With this in mind, several people's foreheads immediately couldn't help but shed several cold sweats. A sense of fear also quickly rose from the bottom of the hearts of the 6 people. The body that could stand could not help but shiver slightly at the moment. Even the palm holding the weapon in the hand felt numb, and the weapon in the hand seemed to slide out. The atmosphere in the field became more and more tense with the silence of the black-robed man. Cold sweat poured out from all over the 6 people and quickly soaked the clothes on the body surface. Until a moment later, the black-robed man made a faint cold hum and said in an indifferent voice, "If you don't want to die, get out of here now." The voice was cold, as if it came from the Joyo Yellow Spring, but it was heard in the ears of the 6 people in front of us at the moment. The faces of several people immediately changed, like a dead prisoner who had been sentenced to death but was suddenly pardoned. The ecstasy in his heart was even more unspeakable. That is, the 6 people quickly turned around, regardless of anything, hurried to the outside of the stone chamber, and at the moment when they just turned around, the man in black in front of them suddenly made a sound again. Wait. Ah. For a moment, the breathing between the noses of the 6 people was almost stagnant at the same time. The eyes of the 6 eyes were tightened in an instant, and a cool feeling immediately rose from the bottom of the hearts of the 6 semi-emperor strong men. Elder, what else can I do for you? Take this guy away, too. The man in black pointed to the ground in front of him and said coldly. Hearing the speech, the 6 people hurried back to their senses. They quickly picked up another person who fainted to the ground at the moment, and then respectfully saluted the man in black robe. Then they quickly turned around and quickly flew away from the stone chamber. Until these people disappeared into the stone chamber, the black-robed man raised a pair of dark eyes and casually scanned the empty stone chamber in front of him. Immediately, he waved his hand and collected all the medicinal materials and various rare metal materials on the storage rack on one side into the ring. Immediately, he moved and disappeared into the stone chamber. Since the last time he met the 5 people in the stone chamber, today is the 4th group of people Xiao Yang has met in 5 days. However, different from the first time, Xiao Yang did not kill these people again in the following times. As far as Xiao Yang is concerned, the people who work together in this relic do not know how much. If he has to kill everyone he meets, when will it be the end? Killing for no reason will only increase the hostility in his heart. This is not a good thing for those who practice. Looking back on Wu Hao in Canaan College, it is because of his heavy blood, and almost went astray. Xiao Yang will naturally be cautious about this. Xiao Yang thinks he is not a good man, but he can distinguish right from wrong. Some unnecessary troubles can naturally be saved. After breaking a few stone gates again, Xiao Yang frowned. Generally speaking, Xiao Yang has not been in the ruins for more than 10 days. After 10 days of searching, Xiao Yang has broken hundreds of stone gates. Although he has reaped a lot, he has never been able to find the soul-condensing fruit and 2 other medicinal plants he wants. This is to make Xiao Yang's patience a little exhausted. Alas! It seems that we can only hope in the depths of the ruins. With a helpless low sigh in his mouth, Xiao Yang moved and flashed again in the channel without interpersonal relationship. According to Xiao Yang's speculation in recent days, he found that as long as he goes deeper into the depths of the ruins and walks along the endless channel, the higher the level value of the treasures in the stone gate. Judging from Xiao Yang's harvest in recent days, he has even seen human skills and fighting skills in several stone chambers. As long as he takes them out at will, they are all priceless treasures, but here, they are only regularly placed in these stone chambers. From then on, we can see that the things in these stone chambers are only the smallest part of the whole relic. Therefore, Xiao Yang at the moment simply put his goals in the deepest part of this relic. After all, the really valuable treasures are all there. It's clear that although the things in these stone chambers can attract the eyes of many semi-imperial strong men, they are just ordinary things for the real imperial strong men. What they want, but those treasures that can improve their strength, such as these pill skills, can keep them for life protection, but if they have enough strength, why should they use pills to protect themselves? This is the truth that it is better to ask others than yourself. After several swipes, Xiao Yang's body quickly flies towards the depths of the ruins. He has a black robe and a Tianjue step. Both of them show together. Xiao Yang's body is not only invisible, but also difficult to find out where his breath is. In this way, Xiao Yang even has swept many semi-imperial strong men one after another, but these people never found anyone passing by them from beginning to end, not even a trace of wind. In front of such a terrible speed, I'm afraid that only the strong fighting emperor can find Xiao Yang's trace. Until a moment, Xiao Yang, who was flying rapidly, suddenly heard a voice in his ear, which made his body suddenly stop. A pair of sharp eyes under the black robe also looked at a direction in the channel at the moment. There was the place where the voice came from. I warn you, we are from Yun Yin Pavilion. If something happens to us today, someone will avenge us when you go out. People from Yun Yin Pavilion. His eyes narrowed falsely, and Xiao Yang whispered in a gradually low tone. In the open stone chamber, 3 figures in black robes stood around each other, surrounded by 2 old men in brocade robes. At the moment, the speaker is one of the 3, an old man with a gloomy face. When the old man's quack laughter fell, the other 2 old people on both sides also heard a burst of cold, strange laughter. Although the old man's words were a little crazy, they also made the 2 white surrounded old men's faces more and more dignified. Although the old man's words don't have a middle ear, the fact is that if the 2 of them really die here, even if the 3 go out, they can't think of the reason for this matter to the 3 of them. After all, the ancient ruins are a place full of various dangers. Even if their strength is not weak, They can even die here, it's also a normal thing. Moreover, there are countless strong people on the trip to ancient ruins. He can't find the cloud-hidden pavilion one by one. Even if he is suspicious, the object of suspicion must first be the people of the 4 families. With this shield, they don't have any worries at home. Quack, 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 qua. The first old man gave a quack smile, and his thin body suddenly shook. With a wave of his hands, his vigorous fighting spirit condensed rapidly at his fingertips. In the twinkling of an eye, he turned into 5 sharp spikes. His body moved. The other 2 old men on both sides also set off at this moment, and wanted to run away angrily at the 2 old men in brocade robes. However, at this time, in the stone chamber, a cold voice full of sneer came suddenly. He, 3 are still doing such things to take advantage of people's danger. Your accomplishments are really trained on dogs. Who is it? Get out of here. For a moment, the 3 old men suddenly stopped. At the same time, the 3 pairs of eyes turned for a moment. The first old man waved his claws suddenly at the moment of angry cheers in his mouth. The 5 sharp chi immediately tore up the void in front of him and bombarded him on the top behind him. Bang! A roar fell, and on the stone wall, the light of an array flashed up, which resisted the old man's fierce force. Hehe, are you looking for me? At this time, the faint cold laughter came again. Then, the 5 people in the field looked at each other at the same time. Immediately, the look in the eyes of the 5 people changed in an instant. They saw a figure in black robe. At the moment, they were strangely standing in front of the 2 elders of Union Pavilion. However, for such a strange scene, not to mention the 3 elders with their backs to the black-robed man, even the 2 brocade-robed elders standing behind them at the moment, their eyes were also filled with horror. Even they did not find out when the black-robed man appeared in front of them. What a terrible speed. The 2 old men couldn't help looking at each other. Rao didn't find out when the man in black appeared in front of them because of their strength. At the same time, such an amazing idea suddenly rose in the hearts of the 3 old men in black robes. I don't know who you are. It seems that we haven't seen you before. I hope you don't mind your own business and save yourself trouble. It was not until a long time later that the old man in black, who was the first, took a deep breath and motioned to the other 2 old men to return. At the same time, he arched his hand at the man in black in front of him in a slightly heavy tone. Ha ha. Hearing the speech, the black-robed man smiled. The first old man's dark old eyes also narrowed momentarily. There was a cold light in the depths of his eyes. I don't know you. Then why? The first old man's voice is still low. At the same time, the fighting spirit in his body runs quietly and is negative behind him. The fighting spirit is quietly condensed in the palm covered by his sleeve robe. Although I don't know you, not everyone can move them. Under the black robe, Xiao Yan's face looked colder and colder. How could he not be aware of the old man's little secret move with his soul power? Immediately, the cold light was shining in the depths of a pair of dark eyes covered by the black plate. Did you decide to intervene? First, the old man's voice became more and more low and cold. At the same time, the dark color was even worse in a pair of old eyes. While Xiao Yang and the 2 sides were about to start, the 2 elders suddenly made a noise behind Xiao Yang. Sir, I thank you for helping us regardless of our own safety, but the strength of these 3 guys is not weak. Now we have been seriously injured. It is impossible to deal with them. Once we lose our combat power, so we'll face them alone. Don't worry. Just tell me that the cloud pavilion you live in is everywhere. Well, hearing the speech, the 2 old men looked slightly stunned. Immediately after that, they knew the reason why the black-robed people helped them. They immediately looked at each other, and the surprise in their eyes was beyond measure. Lord Hui, I am the elder of Union Pavilion branch of Yang Cheng, respectfully arched his hand at the man in black robe, and the 2 elders honestly reported the location of Union Pavilion where they were located. As soon as Xiao Yang heard the words that only people in Union Pavilion would say, the 2 elders immediately thought that the man in black in front of them was an adult in Union Pavilion. Oh, Yang Cheng. Xiao Yang whispered in a low voice. At that time, Yang Cheng and his party didn't pay much attention, so they didn't find that there was a branch of Union Pavilion in Yang Cheng. Okay, I see. Immediately, Xiao Yang nodded to the 2 old men in front of him. When the 2 old men saw it, they looked even more surprised. It seems that their guess is indeed right. In the face of my 3 brothers, you dare to talk to them and die. Suddenly, in front of Xiao Yang, the first old man among the 3 suddenly shot, like a poisonous snake attacking, and rushed at Xiao Yang quickly. At the same time, the other 2 old men in black robes also set off suddenly at this moment, and the 3 shadows rushed together towards Xiao Yang in the middle. In particular, the head old man's secret preparation made his sudden attack more frightening. Looking at this pattern, he seemed to want to take Xiao Yang's life with a blow. Why, if you're ready, don't I? You 2 hold them down, this guy, I'll deal with it. However, in the face of the sudden blow of the first old man, Xiao Yang snorted coldly. At the moment of raising his eyes, the blood of the dragon phoenix in his body was instantly excited. As soon as his palm turned, he suddenly grasped it. Immediately, he punched the black-robed old man in front of him. Then the next moment, the thundering sound suddenly spread, and the terrible angry afterwaves swept through the stone chamber. The powerful force made the whole stone chamber suddenly vibrate at this moment, and the golden array appeared on the wall to resist all the angry afterwaves. When the blow fell, Xiao Yang and the old man in black retreated back, while the other 2 old men in black were stopped by the 2 elders of Union Pavilion. Although they are each injured, it is not difficult to hold them down. Their respective strengths were almost the same, but the black-robed man was able to suppress them by relying on the number of people, but now that they are one-on-one, they will not be afraid. Meanwhile, on this side, Half-Emperor. Then, when the old man in black robe withdrew a few steps back and stood steadily on the ground, he couldn't help but utter a sound of surprise and doubt. After a blow and collision just now, he clearly felt that the strength of the man in black robe in front of him had clearly not reached the level of fighting emperor, but to his surprise, his palm was forcibly blocked by him. Yes, in the field at the moment, except Xiao Yang, the other 5 people, whether the 3 old men in black robes or the 2 elders of Union Pavilion, have reached the level of 1-star duty. Although they are only 1-star duty, they are equally unmatched and powerful in the eyes of ordinary semi-emperor strong people. However, at the moment, what surprised the old man was that the breath revealed by the guy in front of him was obviously no better than that of fighting the emperor, but why on earth, the man in front of him was even with him with that blow just now? How is it possible that you are just a half-emperor? The old man stared at Xiao Yang in surprise. It was hard to imagine that 1.5 emperors could beat him back. It is reasonable to say that even if the strength of the person in front of him has reached the state of transformation and reached the peak level of the late 9-star and half-emperor, he can break through without breaking through. No matter how, he cannot be the opponent of the strong emperor, but now, this kind of thing is really too incredible. Oh, why do you look down on the semi-emperor? Seeing the unbelievable look on the other party's face, Xiao Yang smiled coldly, rubbed his slightly numb right hand, and immediately his body shook. The momentum of the 6-star and half-emperor immediately came from Xiao Yang's body. At the moment when this momentum came out, the expressions on the faces of the 5 people, including the 4 people fighting behind Xiao Yang, were momentarily stagnant. This 6 stars. Half-emperor. This guy is half-emperor. Then, full of unbelievable words, they suddenly spewed out from the 4 people behind Xiao Yang, especially the 2 elders in the cloud pavilion. Seeing the strength of Xiao Yang, the 6-star and half-emperor, a pair of old eyes almost wanted to eat people. The strength is clear. There are only 6 stars and a half-emperors. They have to talk big. If he is there, these people can't move them. This guy. There's something wrong with his brain. The 2 old men looked at each other silently. Deep in their eyes, they couldn't help showing a look of despair. I'm afraid the man in black is coming to be funny. Ha ha ha. At the same time, the 2 black-robed elders couldn't help but burst out a burst of laughter. Indeed, the scene in front of them really made them feel very funny. But then, before they could breathe out of their laughter, the black-robed elder standing in front of Xiao Yang suddenly twisted his eyebrows and angrily scolded the 2 black-robed elders. What are you laughing at? Laugh. Get rid of these 2 guys. I'll deal with this boy. Be reprimanded immediately. The 2 elders also quickly put away their joking thoughts. As soon as their eyes turned, they suddenly became sharp in their eyes and moved, so they met the 2 elders again. This time, the hope in their hearts was extinguished, and the combat effectiveness of the 2 elders was also affected. However, as soon as they collided, they immediately fell into the disadvantage, and the final defeat was just a matter of time. At the same time, compared with the thoughts in the hearts of the 4 people, the old man in black at the moment didn't look much relaxed in his eyes. After all, he personally felt the strength of the person in front of him. He believed that the real strength of the guy wrapped under the black robe was far more than that. Otherwise, the blow just now would not have shaken him back. Play tricks. Since you want to fight, the Emperor will let you see the power of the strong. A fierce drink came out of his mouth. Immediately after that, the old man's body suddenly shook, and his body became more powerful. At this moment, he suddenly swept out and suppressed Xiao Yang. In this regard, Xiao Yang also gave a cold hum in his nose. His palms under his sleeve robe suddenly clenched into fists. Immediately, at the moment of the threat, he stepped forward fiercely. The field of inflammation. When the field opened, the hot flame immediately spread out from Xiao Yang's feet. The temperature in the whole stone chamber also rose rapidly at an extremely fast speed. At the same time, strong fighting spirit also swarmed out of Xiao Yang's body, breaking the oncoming momentum. Then, Xiao Yang stepped out one after another. In a twinkling of an eye, he came to the old man. With a wave of his arm, he hit the old man's face hard. Damn! Hurry up! The old man didn't dare to be careless. From this momentum alone, the strength of the other party is more than half-emperor. I'm afraid the strength of the 6-star half-emperor is just what he looks at on the surface. At the moment when Xiao Yang's fist hit, the old man waved his big hand fiercely, and it was the same fist against Xiao Yang. Then, the next moment, the two had fiercely collided with each other. Bang! The blow was fruitless. While Xiao Yang turned around, he quickly took back his numb right arm and blew it out again with his left fist. In the twinkling of an eye, the two had collided nearly 100 times. Finally, the two people dispersed again after a fierce collision. At this time, Xiao Yang's face could not help but turn a little white. Compared with the strong man fighting the emperor with the purest strength, he was indeed inferior. It was too difficult to defeat him alone. Then, Xiao Yang's body shook, and the numbness on his arms was instantly removed. At the same time, the soles of his feet moved, and he wanted to run to the old man in black again. However, at this moment, Yu Guang from the corner of Xiao Yang's eye saw that in the rear, one of the two elders of Union Pavilion was finally kicked back by a black-robed old man because of lack of support. At the moment, the black-robed old man took the opportunity to kill the old man. As for another elder, although he was in a good situation, his intention to save people was stopped by another old man in black robe, which made him like an ant on a hot pot. Damn it! Stop it! Seeing this scene, Xiao Yang was immediately angry. His eyebrows were locked on a face under the black robe. At the same time, his body moved, and he didn't hesitate to shoot the old man in the black robe who was about to kill. At this time, behind Xiao Yang, the old man in black also smiled coldly, moved, and rushed to Xiao Yang to stop Xiao Yang's rescue. Gaga, your opponent is me. If you want to save people, you have to see whether the emperor agrees or not. The old man gave a sharp smile, and his body flashed. In a twinkling of an eye, he appeared behind Xiao Yang. As soon as he stretched out his big hand, he grabbed Xiao Yang's ankle. Bastard! Get out of here! Seeing this scene, Xiao Yang's heart suddenly became angry, and the old man in black robe also came to the expelled Union elder, raised his hand, and wanted to hit the old man's face. At the critical moment, Xiao Yang finally waved his big hand, and the light on the ring between his fingers twinkled in an instant. The next moment, a black light hit the old man's chest behind Xiao Yang. At the same time, Xiao Yang's body also took the opportunity to flash. At the same time, the blood of the dragon phoenix in his body reached the extreme. With a wave of his big hand, the purple and golden dragon scales were covered in an instant. Then in the next moment, he appeared in front of the cloud-hidden pavilion elder. At the same time, Xiao Yang's face was fierce, and his clenched right fist suddenly blew out. At the moment when the black-robed old man's palm just fell, Xiao Yang's fist was like a piece of steel and smashed on the old man's chest. 8. Pole. Collapse. Bang. At the moment when the angry cry came out from the bottom of his heart, the old man in black robe in front of Xiao Yang and the old man who was the first of the three were blown out at this moment. With a violent roar, Xiao Yang stepped back and quickly withdrew from the stone chamber. Each step will make a shallow footprint on the ground under his feet, and this is the result of the scattered power of the array. It can be imagined how powerful the collision just now is. Stabilize the figure, Xiao Yang's sleeve robe suddenly waved, and took off all his strength. Later, the elder of Union Pavilion also came back to his mind. He looked at Xiao Yang in front of him with blood from the corners of his mouth. A pair of turbid old eyes couldn't help but burst into a look of horror. He never thought that the 6-star and half-emperor in front of him had blocked the blow of a strong fighter, and it seemed that he didn't matter. After a while, The elder of Union Pavilion could not help feeling a shock for Xiao Yang in front of him. At the same time, he was also ashamed of his previous negative thoughts. As for Xiao Yang at the moment, after his body shape stabilized, his eyes under the black robe immediately raised, and his face looked fiercely at the old man in the black robe who was ejected from the opposite side. The palm under the sleeve robe couldn't help shaking slightly. Although the emergency shot resolved the old man's crisis behind him, the palm just now also made Xiao Yang suffer a big dark loss. Up to now, the blood in his body is still surging. On the other side, the old man in black robe, who was knocked back by the black light, was in a worse state than Xiao Yang. Not only the bright red blood hung around his mouth, but also the look on his old face seemed extremely gloomy and dignified. Originally, I wanted to take the opportunity to kill this strange man in black robe here, but whoever thought that Xiao Yang would sacrifice such a terrible killing weapon at the critical moment. Under that distance, the old man had no chance to avoid, and was completely hit by the black light from the front. The direct result was that several ribs in front of the old man's chest were blown off in an instant. What made him angry was that at the moment of the black light, even the fighting spirit in his body was blown away in an instant, so that after the black light bombarded him, he didn't even have the power to return for a time, so he could only be blown back with anger. The black-robed old man raised his dark old eyes and stared at the strong figure with purple and gold light in front of him. Until he saw it clearly, the expression on his old face changed again. The pupil in his eyes suddenly shrunk, and an unbelievable emotion suddenly arose in his heart. Puppet. How is this possible? The figure in front of us is just a puppet without any breath. When the frightened words in the old man's mouth came out, all the people in the field except Xiao Yang couldn't help looking at the old man in an instant, and then they all fell on the North King. Suddenly, the look in the eyes of the people immediately became shocked. Obviously, they also found that the figure in front of them was a puppet without breath. Beiwang, do it. Suddenly, Xiao Yang, who stood in front of the cloud-hidden pavilion elder, suddenly shouted like thunder under his black robe. Immediately after that, the North King, who lowered his head slightly, raised his indifferent face in an instant. At the same time, the soles of his feet stepped firmly on the ground, and the terrible force poured out in an instant with only one blow. He crushed the ground with a ray under his feet. At the same time, Beiwang's body shape, like an arrow, instantly disappeared in place. When it reappeared, it had appeared in front of the old man in black robe. It waved its fist angrily and hit the old man in front with an amazing momentum. Facing the sudden attack of the North King, the old man was shocked. Then he realized that the puppet in front of him actually had the terrorist power comparable to the strong man fighting the emperor. At present, his heart suddenly tightened, and a strong wind of hunting had come to his face, making his breath between his nose stagnant. What if the strength is comparable to the fighting emperor? A puppet is a puppet after all. Give it back. The old man who came back to his senses immediately shouted angrily. While his body retreated violently, his body suddenly turned in mid-air and kicked the North King hard. When the fists and feet collided, the surrounding space suddenly collapsed, and the body shapes of Beiwang and the old man also withdrew backward. As soon as Beiwang's body shook, his body, which had just quit one step, stopped abruptly, immediately jumped forward, and rushed again to the old man who was rapidly retreating in front of him. It's just a quasi-emperor. Get out of here. Aware of the real strength of the North King, even if there was a ferocious smile in the old man's mouth, his retreating body suddenly gave a meal, followed by a hard blow, and a blow fell on the chest of the North King who was coming at the moment. Bang! As soon as the blow fell, the surging fighting spirit immediately poured out of the old man's palm, and the powerful force immediately blew the North King's chest into a deep depression. Gaga! Seeing this scene, the old man in black couldn't help laughing. The other palm followed closely and fell on the North King's chest. His fighting spirit poured out. The whole chest of the North King was completely sunken in an instant. This scene can really be called going forward and sticking his chest to his back. At the same time, the North King's fist also bombarded the old man in black on the chest. Bang! The old man in black robe felt pain instantly. Both of them could not help flying backward. As soon as the old face turned white and the muscles on his face twisted, a stream of blood suddenly spilled from his mouth. However, Oreo was so. At the moment, most of the old man's faces were still smiling. Just a face-to-face, the puppet is already so unbearable. The level of quasi-fighting emperor is nothing in his eyes. Gaga, gaga. He couldn't help but burst out a strange smile. However, the next moment, when the old man in black looked up, the smile on his face suddenly solidified. Then the disdain in his eyes passed away quickly, which was a shock from the bottom of his heart. How? Possible? Until after the good film, the old man's stunned body suddenly loosened, the muscles in the corners of his eyes couldn't help a violent twitch, and his lips and teeth trembled and whispered in his mouth. At this moment, black thunder burst out of Bei Wang's body, and the violent energy released from it quickly restored Bei Wang's sunken chest as before. Moreover, under the old man's careful observation, Bei Wang's chest not only completely recovered, but also the purple and gold color on his body surface. Somehow, it became more and more pure. This. However, before the black-robed old man could speak, Bei Wang, not far in front of him, suddenly moved his body. Suddenly, it was like a loaded shell. In the twinkling of an eye, he came to the old man. He waved his iron fist hard, tore the void, and made a piercing sound explosion. The strong wind blew, and hit the old man's head again. This video will end here.